Hello everybody, welcome back to Storytime Sunday. Welcome if you might be new. I have started this kind of series on my channel where some Sundays I will share a story with you from my life. If you have missed the last three, I think I've done 3 episodes, I will link them in the iCard here. I have a little playlist I have made. I took a few weeks off because I didn't expect the videos to do great because not a lot of people asked for them, but I thought it would be something interesting, something new to do for you guys. So because they weren't getting the best views and response and watch time, I kind of took a break a little bit, so I apologize if you were one of the people that actually wanted to watch those videos, but here's another one for you. Also, just ignore this going on because I put a little bit of mascara on today because we had like meet the teacher and getting their Chromebooks and like information on what to do with their Chromebooks and all that kind of stuff. Then we went swimming and just, yeah, it's a mess. The story I want to tell you today is my first official roommate. I will call her that. For the sake of the video, let's call her Stacy. Now Stacy and I were roommates once upon a time. Please keep in mind, Stacy was 30 or 31. I'm probably just gonna call her 30 for the video because I think she was 30, 31. I was 20 at the time. I will be 30 this year, so long time ago, almost 10 years ago, right? Her and I used to work together at Applebee's. I only worked there for like 2 months. I got fired for something really stupid, which I still don't agree with, but it's fine, I'm over it. So her and I, you know, kind of knew each other, kind of talked every now and then. Now my parents were like regulars at this particular location that I was working at, and she was usually their server. Like they always sat in her section once they got to like know her and stuff, and they really liked her. She was really funny, she was nice, you know, blah, blah, blah. They found out that she was looking for a roommate around the time that I was needing to move. Now, originally, I moved out of my parents' house when I was 19. I moved in with this gay couple, these 2 guys, which ironically, I live about 6 houses down from that house. I don't think they live there anymore, but I happen to live in the same neighborhood now, which I think is funny. But I got pregnant about a month or 2 after I moved out of their house. The guys did not want a baby in their house. I don't blame them. That's fine. They didn't want to deal with like crying and, you know, all the mess and the extra clutter that I would bring, you know, with all the stuff for a baby. So they told me that obviously before I had the baby that I was gonna need to move out, which was fine. I understood. Stacy was looking for a roommate around the time that I needed to find a roommate because I didn't think there was gonna be a lot of people that wanted to live with a lady and her baby, right? So my parents had found out or talked to her or whatever, getting to know somebody, that she was needing to find a roommate as well. So we asked her, and by the way, I wasn't working there anymore when we were asking her like if she could be my roommate. So that was months and months, or if not a year later or something. So we had asked her obviously if it was okay, you know, to have a baby. Like she was aware that, you know, I was pregnant and going to be bringing a baby into the apartment, and she said that was totally fine. Like she's great with kids. She used to babysit. She didn't have kids of her own or anything. She was single, but she had a dog. So she said that was totally fine. So November 2010 is when we moved in together. We had a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. She took the master bedroom and paid, I don't know, like $50 more or something a month because it was bigger, obviously, and she had her own private bathroom. So I had the shared bathroom with like guests in the hallway, which was fine. Now, if you did not watch the video of either the story of my husband and I or my daughter's birth story, I will also link those in the iCard here as well. But she was actually born very premature. So she was due in March 2011. She was born December 2010. So I had her almost exactly a month after we moved in together. Now, the problems that I had with her is the fact that she seemed very sweet, very nice, blah, 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 like no problems, right? Well, I don't remember when it started. Well, actually it was before even my daughter was born. Very, very quickly did I learn that she was not a very good person and she was not a good person to live with. So remember that this is my first actual roommate. I had the gay guys, but like they had purchased a house and I was only renting a room. They had already set like expectations of me to like pick up after myself, you know, keep the bathroom tidy, because I also had the hall bath. So when they had friends over and stuff, they would use that bathroom. You know, if the floor looked dirty, like sweep it, whatever, you know, like they had rules set up. And they were also a little bit older than Stacy. They were like 35-ish or something like that. So they had already established and figured out that they needed rules from having previous roommates and stuff like that. Me being now 20 at the time, moving in with Stacy, and my first like apartment where it's just like her and I, and it's not somebody's house, you know what I mean? Like it was a little bit different of a vibe. We didn't talk about any of that stuff. I didn't think of any of that stuff. I didn't think to talk to her about that. I didn't think to set rules or discuss like who would do like dishes or who would vacuum or whatever, because I didn't know like that was a thing that I would have to worry about. But her being 30 years old and having a handful of roommates, which I'll get to eventually, didn't like discuss that with me either and make me aware or anything like that. If I were to run the dishwasher, or if she ran the dishwasher and I knew it was clean, I would put it away. You know, that's part of my job, right? Or whatever, as a roommate. And there were a few times where she told me that I was putting the dishes away wrong, which maybe just to her OCD or something, it bothered her. But I put bowls with bowls, and I put the silverware in the drawer where they belong, and I put cups with the other cups. Like, I'm not an idiot, you know, I used to do the dishes when I lived at home all the time. That was my chore. So I know to like put dishes with other like things, it's not that hard. But she would always tell me that I put the dishes away wrong, and she would get upset when I would put the clean dishes away. But then again, she would never do it either. Also the trash, she never, ever took out. I don't know why. I think I had asked her about that a few times. The trash would literally be overflowing. And for, I don't know, the first few weeks or whatever, like I just took it out because I'm like, oh, we were both working as well. She, at the time, was still working at Applebee's, and then at one point throughout us living together, she quit or got fired or something and started to work at IHOP. And I was working at Whataburger at the time. We were both working 40 hours a week. Sometimes she would work 50 hours a week. Remember the fact that she had a dog? I'll get to that in a minute too. But we were both like working a lot, you know? So it's not like somebody was home really more than the other to get things done, you know? So I used to just take out the trash when I saw that it was full, you know? And then at one point I asked her like, hey, can you take out the trash the next time that it's full? Like, I've been doing it a lot. And I don't really remember what she said, but it never happened. It never happened. So then at some point I just became kind of spiteful and irritated that she never took the trash out, because I know she can see it. Like, I was in the living room one time watching TV. She walked over to the trash that was overflowing, finished off her orange juice that she bought, and I didn't touch her food and she didn't touch my food. Like, you know, we knew what each other bought, so it wasn't a big deal that she was finishing orange juice. The problem was when she went to throw it away and it like toppled to the floor because it was so overflowing, and I wasn't taking out the trash to see if she would do it. And it fell to the floor. Then she went back to her bedroom with her cup of orange juice. Like, nothing happened. She didn't say anything. Didn't take out the trash. I don't know. I just don't know. And remember that we moved in together in November, right? So it was pretty cold outside, and I liked the temperature at like 75. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Like the heat, did I put it to 75? It was somewhere 70-ish for the heat. And she would not talk to me about the fact that she wanted to not pay as much for the electricity. So she would go and turn the thermostat down to like 60 degrees, you guys. If you're new, we live in Arizona, so our winters, usually during the day, is like 60 degrees-ish, but at nighttime it can actually get cold into like the 40s, which for you might not be that cold, but today it's 117 degrees outside. So going from 117 in the summer to 60 degrees in the winter, that is a huge jump, and like 60 degrees is cold for us, okay? I didn't think that 60-degree heat with 40 degrees outside was enough. Remember that I'm pregnant, and so I would go over there and turn it up a little bit to like 65 or 68, something like that. And you know, go back to bed or continue with my day or whatever. It was usually at nighttime that this would happen. So I would always wake up like freezing cold. And I use like, you know, the blanket that comes with your set, like the comforter or whatever you call it. You know, I wore, I don't know, like shorts and a t-shirt to bed. So it's not like I was laying there naked. I had a blanket on and I was freezing. And so I would go out there, look at the thermostat, like, is this broken? Nope, she put it back down to 60 degrees. So I would put it back up to 70-ish. And this happened on and off for a little while. I brought it up to her one day, again, being the 20-year-old, bringing it up to the 30-year-old. I was like, hey, Stacy, it gets really cold at night. Like, I'm pregnant and it's not comfortable for me to be so cold when I'm trying to sleep. And then I was working like 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. most days. So when I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to get ready for work, like, it was still very much cold. So I didn't want to take a shower and have to get dressed and stand there like shivering while I'm freezing cold, you know, like that's just not comfortable for me. And I felt at the time, I don't know if this is a medical fact or not, I've never looked it up, but I didn't think that was good for the baby, for me to be just like cold and like chilled all the time. So I was like, hey, Stacy, do you think that we could keep the temperature like higher at nighttime? Like, it's really cold. And she said, use a blanket. I said, I have a blanket. She said, use more blankets. I said, well, I don't really have more blankets, but it's just more comfortable to not be shivering in the cold at nighttime. Like, why can't we put the heat up? And she's like, well, I don't want to pay for it. And I was like, it's not that much more expensive. Like, it's really not. I don't remember what our electric bill was, but I think it was like $80 or something, and then that was split in half, obviously, so I don't know. So that was irritating. And then at one point I even tried to put like a piece of tape over the thing, thinking that she could not move it with a piece of tape holding her back. So yeah, she would still move it, and just be really like passive aggressive about things and just not communicate, that's the word. And it just really irritated me and made me so mad. So it was like this battle for a while with the thermostat, right? Also, remember her dog that I talked about? Remember how I said she works 40 to 50 hours a week and I was working 40 hours a week? We didn't have like a yard or anything. We had like 2 small patios or balconies, whatever you want to call them. She kept him in a crate. I don't remember, I think he was like an English bulldog or something. She had a crate in one of her closets, and she had asked me like at the beginning when things were still okay, if I would help take him out. Like if she had to work late or if he was like whining, that means he had to go to the bathroom. So I was like, yeah, sure, like it's an animal. I grew up with animals, I love animals. Sure, I'll take care of the dog. It was like she would purposely not be at the apartment sometimes, and so I was just taking care of the dog like all the time. Like she didn't ask me to like feed him or anything. It was just mainly take him out to the bathroom because he was locked in a crate in the closet all the time. So when we were both at work, and I don't remember what her schedule was. I think she worked night, 4 p.m. to midnight or something like that, because she usually slept like during the day, and then I obviously slept at night. She asked me to help take the dog out, so I did. And like, I never got like a thank you, and I don't know, she didn't, you know, offer to like pay more for that or anything, which I wouldn't have asked for more money, but there was just nothing done or said to me like thank you for always taking care of my dog or something. And to be honest with you, once I had the baby and stuff in December, so just a month after we moved in together, and I had the baby and then I was working and then going to the hospital to visit my child for 3 months, I kind of forgot about the dog. Like I was never really at the apartment anymore. And unfortunately, yeah, I forgot about the dog. So like I saw her like a few times go to take him out, and then I'd be like, oh shit, like I forgot about the dog. Like, and then I would feel bad. So she shouldn't have had the dog anyway if she was gonna work that much and just leave it in a crate. And then I felt bad because I forgot, but also it's not my responsibility because it's not my dog. But that also was just upsetting in and of itself, that she had a dog in an apartment and she worked a lot and didn't have the time to actually like care for the animal the way that it should have been cared for. If I seem like clammy, I'm hot. It's hot. I told you it was 117 outside. My house is at 78 degrees, which is first world problems. It's not hotter, like my AC is not broken, but I have my fan on low, so it's not like humming in the background or anything. So I'm like standing here sweating, all for you, sweating for you. Another really big thing that upset me a lot about this chick is the fact that if she started laundry, she never like ever moved it to the dryer. The washer and dryer were mine. My parents were getting a new set anyway, and we needed a set for the apartment because they had the hookups inside. So we had my washer and dryer in the apartment to use, right? With her working a lot, and then just, I don't know, maybe she worked so much, I don't know if she had friends and went out or whatever, but she was not home a lot. obviously, as we have learned. So she would start a load of laundry and then go to work. And it's like, well, what if I need to do laundry? So I would put all of her stuff into the dryer. You know, I think 1 or 2 times I left out like lingerie type of garments and underwear that I didn't think should go in the dryer. Like maybe they would get ruined. So I would just put them on top of the dryer to like, you know, hang dry, air dry instead, so they wouldn't get ruined. And then after they were done in the dryer, whether I left it there or if I needed to switch my clothes right away or whatever the case may be, I would take her pile of clothes, bring it in her room and put it onto her bed. I never got a thank you for any of that. I did that so many times. It was like she did it on purpose so she didn't have to do her laundry. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that to her, maybe only once though. Like the trash and the thermostat was like twice at least. I think the laundry was maybe like once. Like, can you try to not start your laundry like right before you leave? Because if I have to do laundry, like it's in the way. You know what I mean? I asked her about that and I don't really remember like what she said. Probably fake stuff and lies like, oh yeah, I'll get to it, don't worry. So I did that several times for months and months and months. And yeah, it pissed me off. She never thanked me, not even through a text, because we didn't see each other a lot, like I said, because of the work schedule, but we had each other's phone numbers, obviously. Like she could have written a note and left it on my door, on the counter. She could have texted me, hey, thanks for swapping my laundry. None of that. So eventually I got sick of doing that for her or pulling out her garments, because she never like said anything like, yes, take them out, no, they can go in the dryer, nothing in regards to me doing her laundry for her. So I stopped taking out her underwear and stuff and just shoved everything into the dryer. Oh well, you're not thanking me, you're not communicating to me about anything, so I'm just gonna shove it in the dryer. And I continued to just put it on her bed. I always made sure, or I tried to make sure, that I did laundry like on my days off or something, so that way if she needed the machines, my clothes were not in her way. You know what I mean? And you would think for a 30-year-old that has had roommates before, that she would have that courtesy to not start laundry before she left. Or if somebody had to move it because it was in the way, you say thank you. And I don't remember how long we had been living together before I found this out, but my parents were still sitting in her section when she was working at Applebee's, so they still had a little bit of communication and stuff outside of like her and I communicating or me complaining to my parents, because I did go to them for advice and stuff like that on what to do or how to, you know, bring it up to her and stuff like that. Because I didn't know what to do. But we found out somehow, I don't remember if she like willingly told my parents or if they asked like if she'd ever had, I can't talk, roommates before or whatever. And she had said that she got kicked out of the place that she was living last. She was living with like a boyfriend and then like 2 or 3 other friends or something, like in a house, and it was a roommate situation, obviously. I don't remember exactly like what her excuse was for getting kicked out. I wonder why. But she had said in a sob story like, oh, woe is me, that they put all of her crap outside. Like she came home from work one day or something and all of her crap, her furniture and her clothes and everything were just sitting outside for her because they were like done with her, so she got kicked out. So I don't know exactly what she was doing before she moved in with me or how any of that happened, but knowing her now, like it totally makes sense, you know? So a lot of this did happen before my baby was born in December. She was born December 20th. However, she did not come home from the hospital until April 9th. So like I said, during that time I was still working 40 hours a week and also probably spending more than that. I mean, I don't know how many hours are in a week, but basically the rest of them at the hospital, I really only came home like 2 or 3 times a week to laundry and like change clothes and check in, like, you know, whatever. And I was still paying my bills and everything like that, even though I was like half living at the hospital. When I had my daughter, I was only in the hospital for like 3 days, I think. 2 or 3 days maybe, and then I came home. And obviously I had texted her because I went to the hospital at like midnight, if you watch the other video. So, you know, once I learned everything of what was happening and I was transferred to the other hospital and like settled, and after all the craziness died down, I texted her and was like, you know, hey, I ended up having the baby like early, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen exactly, like blah, blah, blah. Like I won't be home for a few days, you know, because I'm gonna have a baby. So when I came home from the hospital alone without my daughter, so I had texted her that I was having the baby, didn't know when I was gonna be home, whatever. I don't remember if I texted her or not that I was coming home. I probably did, I don't know. That would have been something that I did, like, hey, I'm coming home from the hospital, but like, you know, she's staying behind or something. So when I walked in the door a few days later, there was this big old chalkboard or dry erase marker board right when you walk in the front door that was like, you know, congratulations on your baby, Nicole, or something like that. And it was like baby girl and like some little cute, you know, drawings and whatever. And it was like a really nice gesture, right? Man, so much happened in the month that we lived together. But, okay, too many interruptions. This is usually why I like to film after my kids go to bed. But then again, I don't really get the evening to myself to like relax if I do that. So I'm trying to film this. There's a hair on me. Before they go to bed, and now I keep getting interrupted. So sorry about that. I think I was talking about, yes, when I came home, there was this cute sign and I was really surprised to see it, right? Because I thought she like hated my guts. I don't remember if it was that day or the next day or something like that, but she was there and she was like, oh, welcome home, you know? And I was like, thanks. And she said, I feel like this is gonna be like a fresh start. Let's start over. Like we don't wanna bring a baby into this atmosphere with us like, you know, fighting all the time. So like, I'm sorry for things that I've done and let's go ahead and, you know, start over. I can't even get 20, 30 minutes to myself without people knocking on the doors or just walking in the door. We talked about like the duties and blah, blah, blah. And I pointed out to the fact that like, she never thanked me for like switching her laundry. You know, that was like a concern I had about the laundry and stuff. And she brought up the dishes, which I still don't understand to this day. I talked about the fact that she never thanked me for switching her laundry. I was sorry for not giving attention to the dog and whatever. And you know, we kind of talked through some things, but when I brought up the laundry thing, she did not like that. She got attitude and she said, I never asked you to swap the laundry for me. I never asked you to put it on my bed. I never asked you to finish my laundry. And I'm like, bitch, who are you? You're 10 years older than me. What is your problem? Like what is going on in your mind that's making you act this way and think this way and get defensive like that to say I never asked to switch my laundry? You're right, but I did. Yes, because it was in my way, but I could have simply either not dried it at all and been a real royal bitch, or I could have dried it and then left it on the floor. Like I went into your room and put it on your bed for you, or put it at least on top of the dryer. Like I didn't have to do those things. I could have left it wherever else. You know what I mean? In the middle of the kitchen floor. But I was trying to be respectful of your things and put it in a cleaner spot, you know? But like, you're gonna talk to me that way? That's how you're gonna answer me? Like, hey, you never said thank you. Like, do you have anything to say to me? I never asked you to do that. So that pissed me off. So then it just kind of started this really bad tension, weird relationship again. A few months go by and it's, I don't know, February, March, something like that. I knew that I did not want to bring my daughter home from the hospital in that environment. It was toxic. You could just like feel the tension. What is that phrase? What do they say? You can like cut it with a knife. It's so thick in the air or whatever. That all the time. You could just feel the tension. It was like awkward. It was not comfortable. Like, oh, no thank you. And like I said, I was still going to visit my daughter in the hospital and work a lot. So I wasn't there a lot, but when I was, even if I just took like one day a week usually, I would actually spend the night at my apartment and stuff and like grocery shop or, you know what I mean, get things done. So I saw her like sometimes and it was just very awkward and weird. So I started looking at maybe having her move out and one of my friends or my boyfriend at the time like help and like take over the lease. You know what I mean? Like she could just move out, we could stay there, just have different people living in the apartment. And in the grand scheme of things, it's actually a blessing and a very good thing. That did not happen. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, because if my boyfriend had moved in with this other friend, and I think we were trying to look at the friend's girlfriend or something like that, and we were gonna take the master because we had the baby and they were gonna take the other room and blah, blah, blah. the boyfriend was not the father of the baby, and the friend now, I don't remember what happened, but he hates me and I'm blocked on Facebook now and everything else, and he doesn't, like, we don't talk anymore. Had nothing to do with, I don't think, that situation. I don't really remember what happened. Point is, I'm glad it didn't happen because I wouldn't have ended up where I am now. You know what I mean? That would have been a whole other nasty situation, and we probably would have had to break the lease anyway. So once we figured out that it wasn't gonna work for financial reasons, like the other friend's girlfriend didn't want to move in or whatever it was, we just didn't do it. It didn't happen. So I was like, okay, well, I need to get my own place, and I needed to break the lease. We needed to break the lease. So I remember having a conversation with her. Something else I forgot to tell you. Let's backtrack a little bit here. Sometimes I would work a graveyard shift every once in a while, like if somebody called off or something like that. So I would sometimes already have been at work from 6 to 4, or if it was my day off or something and they called me in and maybe I wasn't visiting my daughter that day or something, I would go in. And there were 2 locks on the door. One that was a deadbolt lock that you could not unlock from the outside, and a handle lock that you could unlock from the outside. So if you're inside, you can lock both. If you're outside, you only have a key to one of them. So I remember that I asked her to make sure she only locked the one that I could unlock with my key, because I had to work overnight. And remember, she was working like 4 to midnight or 3 to midnight or something like that. And if I was working overnight, it was usually like, what was it back then? 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I would leave before she even got home, and then when I got home, she would be sleeping. And she always locked, and I'm pretty sure, again, this was out of spite. And it was after my daughter was born, so it wasn't like freezing outside, but it was still kind of cold. And I remember we had a lot of rain that year too. So I remember I had a doormat that I bought at like the Dollar Tree, because I was really excited, because at the gay guy's house I couldn't really do that. They already had all their decorations up. But I remember I had this doormat, and I remember a handful of the times that it was like pouring rain, because it was getting ruined because it was from the Dollar Tree and it wasn't supposed to actually get wet. And I remember it was getting like ruined from all the rain. And I had to stand there. We had like this tiny like overhead coverage from the roof, and so I'd be like huddled up against the door while I would wait for her, and I'd still be getting wet. So I would knock, ring the doorbell, and if I'm getting home at 6:30 in the morning and she's sleeping, I mean, it's gonna be kind of hard for her to hear, I think. Clearly it was, or she was doing it on purpose. So there were many, many times that I would come home, whether I told her I was working or not, if I didn't have a chance or whatever, she locked all of them like every single time. I think she didn't lock it maybe twice out of the 20 times or something that I worked a graveyard shift. So that really pissed me off too. She knew, like I would text her, hey, I have to work graveyard, I'll be home at 6 a.m. Please leave the bottom lock unlocked, or whatever it was. She would lock the doors. So I would have to ring the doorbell. Ring, 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 knock, ring, 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 knock. I would call her. I would text her. I would ring the doorbell, knock. There were times where I had to be out there from anywhere from like 5 minutes to 20 minutes before she would come down and unlock the door. Never once did she say, oh, sorry, I forgot. Sorry about that. Oh, didn't mean to lock the door. Nope, she just pissed off, opened the door, and would just grumble back up the stairs. It was a weird like split level apartment type thing, hard to explain, but she would just like grumble back up the steps, go to her room and slam the door like she was a teenage girl having a hissy fit. So I would still barely be locking the door, and she's like in her room slamming the door, like, sorry, I warned you, and I've asked you several times not to lock it. Because I would, if I stayed for an overnight shift after I was done working or something, usually I didn't let her know, because I never like stopped working or really had a break, you know? So I had asked her, whether or not I tell you I'm working, just in general, just in case I have to work a graveyard shift and I'm not here, can you please leave the other lock unlocked? And it never happened. What was I talking about before? Because I remembered that fact. That's right, it was breaking the lease. March-ish, I think. February, March. I decided that we had to break the lease. So I told her about it, like, hey, this isn't working. I don't want to bring my daughter home to this. I think it's gonna be best if we just part ways, and I need to get my own apartment, but that means we have to break the lease. She was not quite on board with that, of course, because if you don't know, if you've never rented an apartment or something, or at least Arizona laws, I don't know. If you break a lease early, at least that complex, you had to pay, Bo had to go to bed. Maybe that'll be our last interruption. She needed to find out the information first before breaking the lease. Like, how much was it? What day would be our move out day? You know, all that kind of stuff. Oh, and we had to pay 2 months worth of rent, I think it was. Our rent at the time was like $750 or something like that, somewhere close to that, or $780 maybe. We had to pay like $1,200 to break the lease or something like that. I'm very bad at math, but whatever. We had to pay about $1,200 to break the lease because we signed a 1 year long lease. So that would have been November to November. We were trying to break the lease in March. We hadn't been together, living together that long. I told her we need to do it. So her and I went to the office. We had paperwork to sign agreeing we were breaking the lease. We would move out this date. We had to pay this amount of money. You know, the apartment had to be clean, like all that kind of stuff. And now I know what she was doing, but when I was 20 and she was 30, I didn't know what she was doing. So when we were signing the papers, there was a spot that asked for an address and something else. So I like filled that out. And it was like one paper that we were filling out. So we had been taking turns like signing stuff and writing our names down. And I did not read the paper all the way. And I wrote down my parents' address because I don't know if I had a new, you know, place to live yet or not, but they needed an address, I thought, to send the paperwork, like to confirm everything. So we had copies of it, which I know sounds really dumb, but remember, I didn't understand and I didn't read the paper, but she knew what she was doing. So I was like, sure, I'll write my address down. Because she was sitting there like looking at me, like not writing down an address. And I was like, oh, she probably doesn't know where she's moving either. And I didn't know if she could use her like parents' address or whatever. So I wrote my parents' address down. Big mistake, because I on the spot paid my $600 that day we signed all the paperwork. I took the money out from basically my parents essentially to be able to break the lease, and I did my half. I paid my $600 that day, okay? We moved, and a couple of things that I did that I don't really regret. It didn't affect me in any negative way. It probably sucked for her, but I was 20 years old, so I was still kind of immature. I was not happy about living with her. I was pissed we had to pay the $600, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was upset that the fact that we even moved in together and all the crap that had happened and everything else, right? And remember, my daughter is still at the hospital because she had to be in the NICU forever. The SRP for the electricity that was set up at the apartment, I had called and set that up. So it was in my name. The account was in my name. The washer and dryer, remember, were mine that my parents gave me. When we moved, I had to put, you know, the electricity on at my new apartment. So when I called to cancel the electricity there to have it set up over there, they asked what date did I want the electricity to be shut off. So I already knew what day I was moving out. So I said the day after that to have the power shut off and have it be turned on at my house, right? Or my apartment. So that did happen. I did not tell her this either. So I don't know, she's probably super pissed that she didn't have any power randomly. So also, she had, of course, done a load of laundry. She was working, or at least just out of the house, I don't know. The day that I was moving, she was not there, which was good. She was out of the way. Her dog was still locked in the closet. She still kept him, even though I had voiced my concerns and stuff, but she still kept the dog the whole time. Started a load of laundry before she left. Of course, the washer and dryer were one of like the last things that we got, I think. Remember, we had to kind of bring him down the stairs, and I got the tiniest like U-Haul truck to move a mile down the street. But we moved the washer and dryer. Her clothes, she had started a load of laundry before she left. I took her clothes out and I did in fact plop them onto the floor. I did not put them in the dryer, obviously, because we were moving and I was like, I need these in my other place. So I left her clean clothes in a soaking wet pile on the floor without any means of drying it or cleaning them again. Like I said, I was 20, I was immature, yes, but with the situation and everything, like I was over it. I was done. And we all do stupid things. Like I said, it didn't affect me, bother me, hurt me, just pissed her off, but it's fine. After the way she acted, I really don't care. What's interesting is obviously when we had moved into the apartment, and I had put things in my closet. I set up my bed, my dresser, all that stuff, right? Like I had cleaned the room before I moved in and cleaned my bathroom before I used it, like you normally do. Fun fact, when I was packing up my closet, and this is actually also why I did at least the washer and dryer, the SRP thing I had done previously for the electricity, but when I was packing up my closet, the very top shelf, there was like a shiny thing, and I was like, what do I have up there? You know, it's like the back of the top shelf, so it was hard for me to reach. But he got it down, and it was a bag that had a cheese block in it that was very moldy. I did not bring a cheese block into my room. I never ate in my room, and it was not there when we first moved in. I don't think it was my boyfriend. I had a friend or two over there or something also. So she did it, or her friends did it, or whatever, because I'm sure she complained to other people about me like I complained about her to my friends, and my camera just died. There was a moldy cheese block. It didn't die. It times out. You don't care. There was moldy cheese in the closet. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? That is disgusting. Like, up to that point, I hadn't like done anything to her like that. I wasn't, you know, pulling pranks on her or whatever else. You know what I mean? Like I said, I still continued to do her laundry and move it because I had to do laundry too. Like I still took out the trash, by the way. I think she did it 5 times, and then I continued to take out the trash because it was disgusting. I didn't want trash overflowing, and you know what I mean? So I was still doing all of those things like normal the whole time because I'm mostly a decent human being, okay? Moldy cheese in my closet. So that really pissed me off too, because clearly that was her like sabotaging me, which is weird. I didn't like smell anything, but it could be because I pretty much kept the closet doors closed all the time for the most part, and I wasn't in there much because my uniforms and my dresser. So I left it on her bed for her too. I did do that as well, but she gave it to me. I was just giving it back to her. I don't know if she wanted to bring the cheese to the next place that she was living. I don't know. So I gave it back to her. Did I put it in the fridge? No, I just set it on her bed. Also to make a point, like, bitch, I moved out, took my washer and dryer, took all of my stuff, shut off the power, and moved. Now there's a little bit more to the story, because remember when I said I paid my $600 up front to break the lease? I wrote down my parents' address and we moved on with our lives. Well, I don't remember how much time had passed. I started getting phone calls from the apartments about paying $600. And I said, well, no, I paid that. You should have that on file that I paid $600 that day that we signed the paper to break the lease. And they said, oh yeah, we have that. We show that, but we still need the other $600. And I said, no, Stacy was supposed to pay that. We were breaking it in half because we were roommates. That's her responsibility. Try calling her. They said, we can't do that because your address is on here. You wrote your name down to cover the price or the cost of breaking the lease early. And then it clicked. That's why she was looking at me. That's why she didn't want to write down an address. She wanted nothing to do with paying to break the lease. I had to pay for all of it. And I was like, what? So I was like, I need to call my parents, you know? So I told them about it, and we did actually have copies of the lease breaking. So we looked at that, realized, yeah, I signed up to cover the entire thing. So smart on her part, really smart on her part, but rude, disrespectful, ridiculous. After we looked at all of that, I still had her phone number, I'm pretty sure. I tried calling her, tried texting her. She ignored me, of course. So then I tried messaging her on Facebook. We were actually not Facebook friends ever the entire time or anything. I messaged her on Facebook. I wonder if we can still find it. That would be so funny. I'm gonna look, hopefully while I talk. I don't know if I can do 2 things at once. It is still there. I will show this to you. That is so hilarious. I will try to cover her name. The messages are still here, you guys. So I guess I didn't message her as quickly as I thought that I did. But okay, so I called her, I texted her, which I don't have that anymore. And I even went down to her job, because remember she was working at IHOP now. I even went down to her job to ask her and confront her, because I thought maybe she blocked me on her phone, maybe she got a new phone number, or she's just flat out ignoring me and she needs to be aware of what she needs to do. And we kind of got into, you know, an argument, and she said that she wasn't going to pay it, and I said, yes you are. She said, no I'm not. I said, yes you are. And it kind of went back and forth, going nowhere for a while. So you know, I left. Then I had my parents try also. I was like, hey, she works here now, try to talk to her because you guys were friends longer, like you're older, you're wiser, maybe she'll listen to you instead of a 20-year-old kid, right? So they even went, I think 2 or 3 different times they went. I think only 2 of the times she was actually there, because we didn't know her schedule or anything. And they asked her, and the first time they asked, she said that yes, she would get it to them. You know, she would contact me when she had the money she was gonna have to save, you know, work and save to pay for it. And they were like, okay, great. You know, that never happened. It was like months that had gone by. And the last time that they went, I don't remember what happened. I think my mom went alone though, but she asked about the money, and basically she told my mom she wasn't ever gonna do it and she needed to leave and stop harassing her at work or she would call the cops, which is funny that she's threatening to call the cops when she owes me money and she did me dirty like that. I did message her. So that was over the year of 2011. So I have right here, look at the dates. Hopefully you can see that. 2014, oops, and 2015, you guys. I still messaged her about that money for so long. The apartments said that because my name was on it and I wrote down my address, that I was in charge. It didn't matter that her and I had this falling out or this verbal agreement, because they have to go legally what's on paper from what we signed. So after many, many failed attempts of reaching out to her to pay, eventually this went to collections because we were trying to get her to pay the money. And we couldn't really take her to court. It would have failed because I wrote all over the papers my name, the address. The verbal agreement we had between her and I is not going to be counted as evidence or anything like the papers are. So there was no point in trying to do that. It was like a he said, she said kind of a thing. So that's why we didn't go to court or anything, but she was saying that we were harassing her at this point for the money. So eventually it went to collections, and I think still do. Oh, no, we paid that off. That's right. I got calls for a really long time, and we actually recently paid it off. I think it was before we rented this house. Maybe we've been in here for almost 3 years. November will be 3 years that we've rented this house. I think that we paid off the school before we moved into here because we couldn't pass with our credit or something because it was in collections and it was hurting us. But over time it had gone up, and it was like $750 by now. And Matt and I were married, so this was at least after, yeah, 2012. It might have been around that 2015 time when I was asking her for money. That definitely makes sense. So that was 5 years ago almost. So yeah, that makes sense. We were in that house. Anyway, we paid off the money. We borrowed that from my parents because we needed it off of our credit to move. We had to move out of that house. They were selling it. We couldn't get anywhere with it on my credit now because it had switched over to the collections. So we borrowed the $750 from my parents. We paid it off. Everything cleared. Everything was fine. But to this day, she still owes me now $750. Like, you're 30 years old. You knew what you were doing. But how, like, you are such a low, worthless person to treat somebody like that and to do things like that. Like, are you kidding me? Yes, I took the washer and dryer and I shut off her power, but they had laundromats at the apartment complex. It was just more convenient to have the washer and dryer, obviously, in your apartment. And I didn't want to have to go down to the laundromat, like being alone at night or something, doing my laundry, because it wasn't safe. You know what I mean? And when you call SRP to set up electricity, it can turn on that day, as long as she had the money for it. So it's not like what I did to her was like terrible, but this money thing went on my credit and affected us for years, and then I had to borrow the money from my parents and then pay them back. That is not something that I should have had to pay for when you were mostly the problem. If you have not ever had a roommate before, or if you're looking for a new roommate, talk about those things. Communicate to each other what the expectations are, set rules, set boundaries, set chores, so you don't end up in a situation like that. And if you ever have to break a lease and move out, make sure that you both sign the paper. Maybe they can write something else up and the office manager is like a witness or something. You both sign it. Do something and like save yourself crazy and headaches. So she does not have me blocked on Facebook. Obviously, I don't have her phone number. We haven't tried to contact her in 5 years anyway. Like, she's never going to pay us back, and it's fine. I wanted to share that with you, and I promise you, I swear on my children's lives, all of that is true. All of that happened. I feel like you can't just make that crap up. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this Storytime Sunday. If you have not already, hit that red subscribe button down below, and also head over to Instagram for sure. Facebook if you would like as well to follow me there. I post like behind the scenes things, more day-to-day life, random stuff like that. So head over there to follow me. But I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.